Hi, this is James Barnes with SWBC Mortgage, and today we're going to be talking about the Uniform Residential Loan Application, commonly known as the 1003. I like to go through parts of the application that are not obvious and tell you some of the underwriting guidelines that go along with it, so make sure you understand what we're going to be asking for and why. And then when you get to do the loan application online, you will have a much further understanding of what we need to get from you. So let's skip through the first part. Most of the stuff is pretty obvious, loan amount, interest rate, things like that. Let's talk about some things that might not be so obvious to you. For instance, title will be held in what name? Typically, you want to use your first name, your middle initial, and your last name, and your spouse's name or your partner's name. And then if you're going to be having a non-purchasing spouse or someone who's a non-occupant co-borrower, like a father or mother going to sign with you, they need to put their information in there too. Now, some of the most important thing is what manner will the title be held into? Let's talk about that. There's several different ways that you can hold title. There's sole ownership, so if you're a single person and it's just going to be your property, that's one way to hold title. There's tenants in common. So there's like a brother and sister, they buy a piece of property and you want it so that if you die, you can leave your half of the property to another person, not the person that's the tenants in common. You've got joint tenancy, and that is with rights to survivorship. So when you do die, it automatically goes to your partner that's on the title with you. And then community property is what in Texas is what we have, where the property automatically just goes to the spouse, unless it's designated separately in another document. But those are the types of things that'll need to go in there, and that's why they're asking that question: is how do you want this title to make sure legally is the way that you'd like to see it? Okay, let's go down here to the borrower section. Obviously, it's, name, address, social security number, all this stuff is kind of obvious what goes in here. Here's one section that people miss a lot. If you've been divorced and you have children, we need to know their ages in here and how many you have. And the reason why that is because we're needed to find out how old the children are. So if you pay child support, how much longer the child support is going to be being paid. For instance, if they're 13 years old, we know you've got at least 6 years more, or 5 or 6 more years of child support, and so we're going to see that. We're going to need to know that information. One thing people miss a lot is this box. If you rent or you own, they forget to check where you're living and how long have you been at your current address. It's critically important that we have a 2-year history of where your address is. So if you've been at the first location for 1 year and the location prior to that for 6 months, we're going to need another 6 months of information in there. Same thing for the co-borrower. If you are filling out the application and you and your spouse were not married at the time, she has separate information, we need to make sure that's separate. Otherwise, we're just going to assume that you've lived at the same addresses. Okay, under employment, this is something that's critical, obviously. We need to know the name and address of your employer and how long you've been on the job and how long you've been doing that type of work. If for some reason you haven't been on your job for 2 years and you have a previous employer, we'll need you to scroll down here and fill out that section for previous employer. But if there was a more than a month, more than 30-day gap of employment between one job to the next job, we need to understand what you did during that time and why you were not employed. It's really important as well to know on the business phone, we need a number for the HR department so we can call and verify your employment, not your boss's cell phone number or anything like that, or not the phone number to your desk. We're really looking for the company information more than your information. Same thing for the spouse, obviously, on the other side. Now let's talk about income. This is probably the most misunderstood section and the most section with the most problems. Your base employment income is just that. If you have a salary and the only thing you get is salary and there's no bonus and there's no overtime and there's no commission, then you need to put your monthly gross income, not your net, in this box. Now if you get overtime and bonuses and commissions and things like that and it's broken out on your pay stub, you need to go ahead and put that in if you've been getting that for 2 years And if your employer will verify or state that, there's a chance that it's going to continue. Now, if the bonuses and commissions that you get are more than 25% of your income, you're going to need to bring us tax returns because we need to verify that, and we also need to verify that you don't have any expenses that go along with it receiving that additional income. If you get dividends and interest income that's substantial, there also will need tax returns for that. And if you get rental income from rental property, then we'll need your tax returns as well. So unless you're a salaried person and unless you don't get any of these other things, then you might plan on just bringing your tax returns in if you're not salaried and don't have any of these other sources of income, because most likely we're going to ask for that. This section over here is on rent. You need to fill this out. A lot of people miss this, they don't fill it in. And if you have another house, if you can, break out that you're going to be selling or just retaining and you're moving to this house, make sure you fill in the information about that. Now down here, one of the things that we need is information on Social Security and pension income. A lot of people don't know what they can give us to verify Social Security income besides the direct deposit that's in their bank account. Typically we can accept that, but most of the time we're going to want a Social Security letter, and that looks like this. This is a Social Security letter that you've seen, and you can scroll down and see what this looks like. So if you can go back and find this in your system or in your office desk, this is what we're looking for, something that looks like this that verifies that. Now let's go down to assets. The assets section again is something that gets messed up a lot. We don't need all this information. We'll need to like Wells Fargo and checking account or savings account. And then in this box here, what we're looking for is the ending balance of the last month that you have. So if the last bank statement you got was July, then we need the ending balance from July. And what I mean by that, if you go into this particular bank statement here that's online, this lady had all this stuff coming in, and this says closing date, ending balance, and that's the number right there that we'd want you to plug in. We don't want to know the beginning balance because we want to know what you have at the end of the month, not at the beginning of the month. Another guideline that is important is that if for some reason in this particular this bank statement down here, she had a couple deposits of $100, and if she had a excuse me, up here she had a deposit of $1,500. In this case, we would probably want to know, this is probably her salary, and we see a $440.02 deposit. We're probably going to want to know what in the world this is, because if you get a deposit that's more than $100 over your normal salary, we need to have a paper trail of what that is and where it came from, so we understand why you're getting this extra cash. So just be aware that if you do, on your bank statement, if you look at it, if you see that there's an extra deposit, that your aunt gave you some money for Christmas or someone paid you money back for something they owed you, we're going to need to understand what that is. So we scroll down here, stocks and bonds, we can only count 75% of the value of that just because of the instability of the market. That's kind of what we're looking for there. And then don't worry about filling out the net worth of the business, because that's someone's opinion more than it is actual fact. And we don't really need to know about the automobile values or anything like that. Now, if you have any gold or something like that that's hard currency or something that's a super value, you can go ahead and list that under other assets. But that's kind of what we really need in this section here. As far as liabilities and things like that, there's no point in filling this out. We're going to pull your credit, and the application is going to be filled in by the software that pulls in all your credit and things like that. So we're not going to need all these liabilities filled in on this section because we're already going to know that. Now, if you do get child support or you pay child support, you need to plug in how much you have to pay there and who you owe that money to, and then get a copy of the divorce decree so we can see that. Now let's scroll down here to the section of real estate owned. Again, this is something that gets messed up a lot on a loan application. If you own other property, you need to know the address and the full address there, Is it rented or is it sold, like it says here, pending sale, whatever. Type of property, duplex, fourplex, piece of land, commercial apartment, whatever you want to put it. And the value of the property based on your best guess. The value of the amount of the mortgage liens that are on that property, how much you rent it for if you do rent it, and what the payments are. And over here is separate. This is not your if your payments are separate, your tax and insurance are separate from your payment. You need to break that out here. If not, just put the payment and then put included, tax and insurance here, put included so we know what that is. Leave this section blank because we're going to take 75% of the gross rent and plug that in here anyway, so you don't need to do that. If you have rental property, be aware that we're going to need your tax returns absolutely for sure, even if you're on salary. We're also going to need a copy of your existing mortgage statement for that property, a copy of the insurance for that property, and a copy of the tax statement on that property, so we can make sure that we understand what the actual cost of that property is besides your tax return. And most people don't realize they're going to have to get all that. And I realize the pain, but we really need to see that and understand that. Okay, this whole section you leave blank because we'll do that over here. And here's some things over here you need to make sure you understand. Are there any outstanding judgments against you? Have you declared bankruptcy in the past 7 years? If you had any property foreclosed upon or given title to in the last 7 years, that includes short sales and things like that. The guidelines for short sales are pretty clear. You have to be at least 2 years past the short sale. Most of the time it's longer than that. In order to get a new loan. So if you have a short sale or if you had a bankruptcy in the last few years, you need to stop and call us, and we'll go over that situation and see if we can even get a loan for you there. Are you party in a lawsuit? That includes a divorce if that's the situation. The rest is kind of self-explanatory as far as do you have child support and things like that. Now, are you a permanent resident alien, and are you a non-permanent resident alien? There's different types of visas, H-1 visa, EAD cards, and a variety of things that prove residency. So if you're not a United States citizen, let us know, and we'll tell you, based on your situation, what type of document we'll need to verify your residency. And then the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory there. So I hope that this very quick explanation of the application helps you. And if you have any more questions about what you need to get for me, just let me know. You're always going to get 2 years W-2s, 30 days pay stubs, the last 2 months bank statements, your driver's license, a copy of your social security card, name and phone number of your homeowner's insurance agent, a copy of the survey of the property you're buying or refinancing, if possible, and of course a copy of the contract, which we can get from the agent. That's kind of the basic list. If you're self-employed or bonus, you need your tax return for the last 2 years as well. So anyway, if you have any questions, give me a call, 228-8124, myself. I'd be glad to answer questions before we go over all this again. Thanks a lot.